With Joe Truncale, who has really built an infrastructure, a technology infrastructure that's allowed Spectrum Networks to add more programming, more live programming, a lot more live programming, and more networks. They launched 4 new networks in a 30-day period, which I can't even imagine, in November. Spectrum operates 31 news feeds, including New York 1, Spectrum Bay News 9 in Tampa, Spectrum News Austin, Spectrum News North Carolina, and the newest networks are in LA, Wisconsin, Kentucky, and Ohio. So, Joe, tell me how this infrastructure that you built is helping you add the new programming and the new networks.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And I think what we should first do is kind of look back at the evolution of the networks. So, we launched New York 1 back in 1992 as a 24-hour news service for our customers exclusively in New York City. And the success of that, it allowed Time Warner Cable at the time to launch stations in upstate New York, North Carolina, Texas. And with that, we were looking at ways to over time, become more efficient as an organization. So basically, we looked to the company and looked to the infrastructure of Time Warner Cable, and we were able to really design a complex, network to connect all of our organizations together. So through the backbone of the company, we were able to really connect all of our New York State channels, and then all of our North Carolina channels, and our Texas operations, and then ultimately connect those through a diverse fiber ring within the organization. And then, once Charter and acquired Time Warner Cable, we looked at ways of becoming even more efficient, and we developed and looked at other operations and through analytics and all types of examination of data. We looked at these other locations and decided that we had some really good opportunities in the Kentucky, Ohio, Wisconsin, and California, and we built those networks, and we were able to take advantage of the ring that we have, and we were able to really create a virtual news environments in Ohio and Wisconsin, and connected those to a big hub that we have in upstate New York and Albany, which is really a master control distribution center for all the channels that we have in upstate New York, and the 8 channels in Ohio and Wisconsin. So it's 8 individual news feeds that feed certain regions within those 2 states. And then we also connected LA to our footprint, but LA operates independently of the networks on the eastern side of the country.
Okay. I think what Joe is doing is all this hubbing is something of interest to a lot of broadcasters, so please feel free to interrupt me with questions of your own. You're working with Dalet to create a content hub. What is that, and how will that work?
Well, our whole organization is really, the Dalet is the newsroom system. They provide all the software, that automation, master control distribution piece, asset management, and the whole newsroom infrastructure. So really what's become a challenge over the last couple of years as we've grown as an organization, there's different versions of the software in different markets, and there's content that's being created in multiple places that they don't necessarily need to, it doesn't necessarily need to work that way. So, as an example, George Bush died, and we did an obituary piece, and there's an obituary piece in each market. We don't necessarily need to do that. We could have our journalists focus on the ancillary stories associated with the funeral or the obituary piece. So that's just one example of many different types of content that could be curated from our organization and shared amongst the group. So what we're working with Dalet on is a content hub philosophy where we have a team that curates and creates content for the entire organization, and it's a cloud-based solution where content, we have a team that produces this content, a common rundown that sits in all of our different systems, available for all of our producers, regardless of the version of software we're running. And the team creates the pieces. They go up into the cloud, and we launch a plugin within Dalet, and all of our news environment could see those different packages. or video elements, and then if they want them, they just download them. So into their local storage solution, and then they're able to use those assets and focus their journalists on creating content that's exclusive for that area, as opposed to creating something that's similar in all markets. So it's really an opportunity for us to really create a team that's focused on really national or content that could be shared.
So how many journalists do you have in each of the 31 locations
Oh,
dedicated to, like roughly?
It's in Ohio and Wisconsin. Well, let's start with this. I mean, the beauty of our organization is there's content that's created in certain markets that could be shared, right?
Yeah.
So you look at business pieces, you look at medical pieces. They come from somewhere. So and then there's journalists at each market that are focused solely on content in their areas. So depending on where you go, I mean, Los Angeles, there's over 30 reporters. New York City, the same. Wisconsin, Ohio, there's maybe 10 in each market at this point. But next year we plan to expand. But then there's just an abundance of content that we have that is shared.
And so they're sharing now, and then when the Content Hub is ready, you'll have a team that just does the George Bush funeral, kind of, the national stories that would, or is that more of a shared thing?
Yes, those type of clips, entertainment content, anything, business pieces, any of that type of content that kind of is beyond just a hyper-local market. All of that content will be created by this hub concept and team.
When do you expect that to happen?
First quarter.
First quarter, that's really
We've
soon.
been in some development conversations and working on this for a couple of months now, so it's pretty close. So really the goal with that is for our journalists in the field to create self-contained content, graphics, closed captioning, all of that is created in the field, and when it gets up to that hub and our journalists at the local, our producers at the local locations get a chance to look at that content. If they want it, they could put it right on air. I mean, I'm not sure if everybody's familiar, but there's two types of working concepts that we have within our organization. Obviously, it's the live piece, and we do live programming, live shows, live newscasts, but it's also, our concept is also clip-based. So at certain points of the day, it's just like a big jukebox. If you look at a half-hour wheel, there's maybe 30, 40 different elements that sit in that, but you have headlines, it's the top of the hour, then you have an introduction to weather, that's another clip, then the weather forecast is another clip, and then every story following that, leading into a commercial break, is its own individual story. So our producers could take those clips, take them out, put new ones in as content is being produced. But if there's, the beauty of how we do it is if there's a breaking news scenario, we could sustain it, and we just can run with that, and it's seamless into that wheel concept.
You mentioned the cloud for the hub. What else is what other technology is making the hub happen?
Well, really, it's an AWS storage solution, but it will be Dalet software driving that. So all of the technology behind moving those assets from the field or from our content hub headquarters, everything will be managed through Dalet software.
Okay. Your network is built on fiber,
Yes.
thanks to Spectrum Networks and being owned by Charter. If you were working for a TV network group or a station group, could you do what you're doing in the cloud?
I think some of it we could. I think the distribution piece would be a little challenging because the way we our rundowns and the way we produce the content is pretty dynamic. Where we have all those clips that are short in duration, and we need immediate access to those rundowns and to move those clips in and out of the playlists to get them on air. I think that would be a challenge if in a cloud infrastructure. But I think our long form programming, our original programming, any content that's 8-10 minutes long, I think we're going to start. We want to start to experiment with being able to play those assets from the cloud into our rundowns, into our air rundowns at some point soon. So I think just to summarize that is for our normal operation, I think it's a bit of a challenge at this point. But I think original programming, longer content, I think that would be an opportunity for us this year, or in 2019.
Kind of a play-out thing rather than a production
Yes.
thing in the cloud.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, and
really-
that's you know the way we build the play-out of our content. It's really you know, production rundowns and air rundowns. So you have 24 of those a day, and they auto-create on a daily basis. So you know, our producers have templates in there where there's animations and there's billboards and things of that nature that sit into those auto-created wheels, and then their focus is really getting the content that's produced on a daily basis, whether it's packages or control and production elements, and getting those into the playlists for play-out.
Tell us about your digital strategy. You have plans.
Well, I think our group will announce it in early January what our plan is. But you know, what we're thinking is, you know, it's you know, we want to enhance our linear products, but and we want to do that in a digital fashion as well. But I think what we want to do is have a more interactive experience for our consumers, where they can really customize what they see. So we're experimenting with a bunch of different ideas with, you know, viewer customer customization of news content.
And do you have to change the infrastructure to do that? What you've built?
Well, no, not our production or technical infrastructure. No, it's some development work that we're working on. And
Are we done? So, oh, sorry, Joe. Sorry, I'm getting the. Can I ask one more question? What about your OTT strategy?
we really can't get into the specifics about that, unfortunately, right now. That'll come next year, actually in January. So.
All right, good. Well, so thank you very much, Joe Truncale, Group Vice President of Technology at Spectrum Networks.